A Maryland man thought to be wrongly deported.
Maryland man Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Of a Maryland man wrongfully deported.
A Maryland man who was mistakenly deported.
The Maryland man.
That Maryland man that was detained.
The Maryland man mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador.
They're not even trying to bring back a Maryland man.
He's a Maryland man.
Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
Maryland man.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
The lying legacy media, the Democrat propaganda machine, has egg all over their faces today as their desperate attempt at gaslighting the deportation of an MS-13 gang member who's here illegally completely falls flat. This, as the Democrats are in a polling tailspin, it's a left-wing disaster in every single way, and I'm going to show you exactly why. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to celebrate with you the dawn of a new American golden age that you made possible back on November the 5th.
We will stand bravely, dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun.
As we speak, America is regaining its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, and prosperous nation on the planet. We have so much to celebrate already. Safer borders, the dismantling of DEI, permission to drill, baby, drill, and over $1 trillion in new investments released into the economy. We stand on the precipice of what will be known as the most prosperous time in American history. The only question is, will you be an active participant in the golden age, or will you sit passively on the sidelines watching everyone else build wealth? Well, if you want to be part of the former, then I urge you to join me and my good friend Mark Wilburn at the Golden Age Summit on Thursday, April 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Mark is a stock market genius whose recent recommendations have led to returns of over 200%. He's an amazing teacher, and he's got a knack for demystifying the market so everyday Americans can participate in this golden age we're now in. But don't wait. Seating registration is limited, so click on that link below right now and register today for this free online event, and I'll see you for a moment that promises to change your life. We can call it the Maryland man misfire or the Maryland father failure, whatever you want to call it. The legacy media's fabricated fake news surrounding Kilmar Abrego Garcia has officially collapsed. Even The Hill is admitting that this is precisely the kind of blatant, coordinated propaganda that has absolutely shredded whatever's left of the legacy media's credibility. The very people who told you that Kamala Harris was going to win in a landslide, that Hunter Biden's laptop was nothing more than Russian disinformation, that Brett Kavanaugh was a rapist, that Trump and Putin colluded to steal the 2016 election, that the Wuhan lab leak was nothing more than a conspiracy theory, that Joe Biden was riding a unicycle and juggling in the Oval Office, that he was the best Biden ever, that he was cogent. This Biden is cogent. Yeah, that legacy media is now telling you, as you just saw, in unison, common talking points and all, that a deported MS-13 gang member, serial wife beater, who shouldn't even be in this country to begin with, is really just a Maryland man, a Maryland father, who's been wrongly and heartlessly deported by the Trump administration. I mean, it's actually laughable. I mean, the attempt at gaslighting here is so obvious. You just have to laugh at such just clownish attempts at deceiving the masses, failed attempts at deceiving the masses. It simply doesn't work anymore. We've talked so many times on this channel as to why. It's because of the rise of the internet. Because of the rise of the internet, the information that the legacy media once had privileged access to, say like during the Walter Cronkite years, that information has been radically decentralized and democratized and dispersed among the masses by way of the internet. We all now have the same access to the same information that anyone at CNN has access to, which means that we, for the first time ever, we are now in a position to be able to fact check the fact checkers. We can now fact check CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post and Georgie Stephanopoulos. They're so blindly narcissistic that they don't realize that they are the ones being fact-checked in real time. They are the ones being fact-checked. So now the next question is, with all of this mass fact-checking of the legacy media, what happens to the Democrats when their amplifying mouthpieces in the legacy media have all been exposed as liars? Well, this is what happens. This is what they enter into a polling doom loop. The latest Gallup polling has Democrats plummeting to an all-time historic low. Confidence in Democrat congressional leadership has collapsed to just 25%. This is akin to what we saw with the Quinnipiac poll a few weeks back that showed the Democrats falling to a 21% approval rating. So according to Gallup, just 1 in 4 voters express trust and confidence in the current Democrat leadership. It's the lowest numbers in Gallup's polling history. For context, Gallup's previous low for the Democrats was 34%. That's nearly 10 points more back in 2023. That was their previous low. That itself was well below the average trust and confidence rating for Democrats, which was it's been around 45% over the last 20 years, since 2001. Democrat congressional leaders' trust and confidence rating among their own party faithful has fallen an astonishing 41 points since this time last year. 41 points. I mean, there's seriously no other way of putting it. The Democrats are in an existential tailspin as we speak, and it's not hard to see why. Again, we talk often about the 80-20 doom loop that the Democrats are caught in, where they and their mouthpieces in the legacy media are planting their flags in issues that only the most extreme left-wing 20% of the electorate cares about. And the fundamental reason why they're caught in this 80-20 doom loop is because when political parties begin to decline, when they begin to erode and decay, they often fall back on their most rabid and extreme elements precisely because they're the only ones that are still willing to give the party the time of day. So as the Democrats decline in popularity, they default to their single most extreme radical wing because they're the only ones willing to politically fight. But the more they default to their extreme radical wing, the more Democrats alienate themselves from the vast majority, the 80%, which means that the polling for them only ends up falling lower, which causes them to double down on the most extreme, which further alienates them from the political majority. And that's what we call this political tailspin, this 80-20 doom loop that they're in. And if they don't get out of it, they are risking total political irrelevance for the foreseeable future. And even what's left of the more sane Democrats are admitting precisely that.
I remember before Bill Clinton was elected, Democrats had gone too far left. But there was a movement, the New Democrats, who wanted to bring the party back to the center, which we did with Bill Clinton, balance the budget, reduce the debt and deficit, cut welfare, tough on crime. This Democratic Party, Laura, is going further left, becoming abusive, and I think, frankly, to be blunt, irrelevant or worse. And that is tragic for my party and tragic, I'd say, for our two-party system.
Now, by contrast, by stark contrast, Trump's approval numbers continue to strengthen and get solidified. Here's the latest from Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen, one of the single most accurate pollsters from 2024. I mean, Trump is just crushing it. He's at 52% approval. And keep in mind, a certain number of those who, quote, disapprove still support Trump. This is what drives the Democrats crazy in terms of the polling. They traditionally thought there's a direct correlation between approval rating and votes, right? So if you're at a 52%, so if you're at a 48% approval rating, only 48% of people are going to vote for you. Not with Trump. Not with Trump. This is the most frustrating thing for Democrats when it comes to Trump. There is not a direct correlation between approval ratings and votes. There are plenty of people who voted for Trump who do not necessarily approve of him or how he's handling things. This is akin to the amazingly unique time we're in, these what we call post-normal times. They just happen to realize that D.C. is broken. It's broken beyond repair, and it needs some shock therapy from the outside to fix it. There is nothing in the status quo. It's beyond repair for the status quo. There's no one inside D.C. that's going to be able to fix it. You need some kind of shock therapy from the outside, and they see Trump as precisely that shock therapy. It doesn't necessarily mean they approve of everything he does. So what I'm saying here is that a 52% approval actually translates more into something akin to a 55% voting block in terms of those who would actually vote for him but who do not necessarily approve of him. Case in point, even Ann Coulter is back. That's right. The politically promiscuous, schizophrenic Ann Coulter is back on the Trump train. She's calling his second term the single greatest 100 days in American history. This is what I originally voted for. Well, welcome back, Ann. Let's see how long you last. But, I mean, this is just testimony to the fact that all the efforts, the utterly forced, desperate efforts by the legacy media to carry the Democrats' waters over the last few weeks and trying to push a narrative that Trump voters are experiencing buyer's remorse. You've heard that. That was the other one. It's not just the gaslighting on Garcia. It's that Trump voters are experiencing bias. Half of the Trump voters out there regret they voted for him. Do you remember that? This is what the legacy media was peddling for like the last 2 weeks. That Trump is so out of control. He's so dictatorial. He's so authoritarian. Just like we warned you he would be, dumb voter. That now, finally, you dumb voters are finally having regrets for having voted for him. That was the 24/7 scripted talking point narratives that you saw all across the legacy media. This narrative and this dying, decaying, decomposing legacy media. And true to form, it was all a lie. There wasn't a shred of hard evidence that anyone felt that way. It was just a narrative that legacy media editorial boards pushed to see if it would gain any traction. And of course it didn't, because it wasn't true. Nobody bought it. And then, of course, you had Harry Enton of CNN driving a stake through the narrative's heart.
Let's talk about Trump voters and how they feel. Do they regret their vote?
I mean, this is the big question, right? I hear all these stories, all these articles. All the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. What are we talking about? Trump voters looking back at 2024. We got a new poll out. The poll was conducted this month. What percentage would change their vote to a different candidate? We're talking just 2%, just 2%. That's not even a wide spot on the road. And then there's this additional 1% who say they would rather not vote. We're talking overall under 5% might or would have changed their vote, Donald Trump voters back in 2024. And then you ask, okay, the same question to Kamala Harris voters, and it turns out the numbers are rather similar. So if there was a repeat, if folks got to be able to redo their vote that they had back in 2024, would the result be any different? I doubt it would be. I doubt it would be, or it would still be extremely close. The bottom line is, for all this talk of Trump voters regretting their vote, in the numbers, it really just doesn't show up, John.
Because it's fake news. It's that simple. It's because it's fake news. As we saw in the montage from the very beginning, the legacy media peddles fraud. They peddle fake news. No one listens to them anymore. And as a result, the political party the legacy media shills for is in a death spiral. They're doubling down on stupid, and they show no signs of course correction anytime soon.